Hi everyone and welcome to Storytime with Kate. Let's talk about observations and how to use Eylf or Early Years Learning Framework to write successful observations. So here I drafted an observation for you to help you with understanding how I'm using Eylf and how I'm teaching my students who are doing Certificate 3 and Diploma of Early Childhood Education and Care and Bachelor students how to write observations and use our key document, which is Belonging, Being, Becoming, for analysis. So this is the learning story about two boys named Lucas and Aaron. Aaron and Lucas are both interested in numbers. So it's, as you can see, a very simple learning story. It starts with spontaneous teaching moment and develops into some interesting experience. So every learning story usually has a title. In my case, I just named it The Biggest Number because that's what the story ends up with. Let's read it together and then open Eylf to see how it can be useful for analysis. Yellow notes. It all started with you both showing interest in me writing something on a post-it notepad. Had a range of pens and you both seemed to be intrigued by the smooth movements of gel pen. Lucas, you noticed yellow paper I was using and asked if you can use it. Offered a pack of post-it notes. You both started to experiment with pens. Lucas drew a very detailed number and one circle next to it. Was it a 0 or just a circle? Aaron joined. Aaron joined in and wrote numbers in order 1, 2, 3. Then you added 1 and 2 circles, zeros. What is this number? Lucas seemed interested. 100, I said. 100? Wow! Aaron seemed quite excited to hear that. You both kept drawing numbers and this time Lucas wrote 1 and 3 zeros. Can you guess what number is that? It's a very big number. Lucas invited us to play. Guessing game. You both kept writing down the numbers with 1 and many zeros. For example, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. It fascinated you that numbers change when you just add zeros. To further support your interest and engagement, I asked if you know what is the biggest number in the world. And Lucas looked puzzled, while Aaron also had to think. Finally, Lucas exclaimed, I know, it's 10, 10, 10, 10. So this is the story, this is evidence. So that's how you can document something that might start as a jotting and then evolve into more interesting observation with analysis. So learning story is different from any type of other observations because it is usually social cultural. So it involves children, as you can see, Lucas and Aaron. It also sometimes talks to children and their families. It celebrates learning and captures meaningful moment of learning. So here you also can see that I included both children and it's not just one child. So learning story is always inspired by the ideas of Vygotsky that children learn from each other and alongside each other. So this is our story. Now we need some analysis. In my original story I do have analysis, but here I decided to leave it open-ended so we can think of what does it mean for us in terms of learning. What do we see in these observations? And a lot of my students sometimes struggle to find what they see. So if you look at our Eylf, it says that children, educators and play-based learning, all these terms are described in the Eylf, and this framework has a vision, which consists of 3 main ideas: belonging, being, becoming. If we look at these 3 ideas to start our analysis, so you can see that experiencing belonging means that children belong to family, cultural group, neighborhood, or wider community. So if I know these children, I can see if they're actually showing me that they are experiencing belonging. When they are involved in play, they basically show that they feel very comfortable in the center. Being is also a very important concept. So what does it tell us about these children's sense of identity? Are they interested in math? Is it their passion? Do they do math outside of preschool? Also, if you look at becoming, this is probably the most relevant key idea here for our analysis. Can we use it? Children identities, knowledge, understandings, capacities, skills, and relationships change during childhood. They are shaped by many different events and circumstances. Becoming reflects this process of rapid and significant change that occurs in the early years as young children learn and grow. So we can see that children may need this cultural knowledge of mathematics and numbers because society requires it and it's considered to be valuable by their families. If you know Lucas and Aaron background and they are from Chinese Australian families, you would also see that this knowledge about math might be valuable. Also, writing, literacy, pre-literacy, early emerging literacy also might be part of them becoming more competent learners. So I will definitely use this idea. And how I'm going to use it? I can actually include the whole quote in my analysis when I write to the families. Use Eylf to educate parents on learning because this document has professional language that we can share with the families. Now if we move to the next section, it talks about learning outcomes. Yes, so I'm going to move towards this table and you can see that learning outcomes are in green. So we have 5 learning outcomes. Children have a strong sense of identity, children are connected and contribute to the world, children have a strong sense of well-being, children are confident and involved learners, and children are effective communicators. Just looking at our observation about numbers, what outcomes do you see in this observation? Let's have a look at it again. So we have children who are using pen and post-it notes to write numbers and scribble. So they are communicating with each other, but they also communicate through writing, and discussions. If we go back, we can look at outcomes and we can see that based on our observation, we can definitely link it to children are confident and involved learners because they are quite engaged in what they're doing, and children are effective communicators because they are using pre-writing skills, they use pen to write, and they also communicate through symbols. What I noticed though as a teacher and supervisor, that people do not go beyond this analysis, while Eylf actually has all this language for us that helps us to add depth to our analysis. Let me show you what do we want to see here. So if we go to outcome 4, children are confident and involved learners. So, and if you see that children use processes such as exploration, collaboration, and problem solving, look at this observation again that I created and think about whether this shows some element of collaborative learning. Do these children, Lucas and Aaron, are learning together? Does it show exploration of numbers? Can you write it down? Can you use this phrase, problem solving? When it comes to numeracy. Because I asked them, what is the biggest number? And there was thinking involved. So also you can see here that this outcome, children are involved learners, talks about dispositions. Whenever you start your observations as a student or as an experienced educator working in the room, think about how you can link this to your observations. Are children demonstrated curiosity? Are they demonstrating persistence when they are trying to solve the problem or undertake the task? Is there a certain level of creativity involved in answering the question, what is the biggest number? You remember that Lucas said 10, 10, 10, 10. It's not a correct answer, but it is a creative answer. So children are effective learners because they are able to transfer and adapt what they have learned from one context to another and locate and use resources for learning. So these children obviously used another adult, me, as a resource for their learning. They also were able to transfer the knowledge about mathematics and numbers from their family and community contexts to the context of early childhood education and care. So you can see that children are confident here, and you can write it down because they're increasingly taking responsibility for their own learning, personal regulation, and contribution to social environment. You can definitely say that these children are demonstrating learning styles that are preferred, so they do show interest and commitment for inquiry, because when they write numbers they're curious about what these numbers mean. So even starting with this description of the outcome, you can already add to your analysis a lot of expressions. But look at this gem. So these tables from Eylf are just perfect for any beginning educator who is writing observations. Children develop dispositions for learning. I already talked about it. So for example, children were quite enthusiastic and they demonstrated their confidence in numbers. They also demonstrated curiosity. What are the biggest numbers here? Children develop a range of skills and processes such as problem solving, inquiry, experimentation. If you do not know any of these words, it's worth researching what hypothesis is. And in this case, children did have this process as well, researching. So we didn't do research, but we could get the book and find out what is the biggest number from the book or iPad. Investigating, yes. So all these wonderful processes could be added to your analysis. So I already mentioned that children are able to transfer and adapt knowledge from one context to another, and also you can see that they resource their learning through connection with people, place, technology, and natural and processed materials. In our case, pens and post-it notes, and also a person who is more knowledgeable other can be used as a resource for their learning about numbers. But look at this table to the left. When you are writing about Lucas and Aaron, you can say that children expressed wonder and interest in the environment when they show curiosity about post-it notes and pens that I had. Are they curious and enthusiastic participants in their learning when they kept writing numbers, even if no one asked them to? Do you think they used this play, which is literacy play, to investigate, imagine, and explore ideas about numbers? Did they follow their interest in numbers with enthusiasm, energy, and concentration? Definitely. Did they contribute to play experiences emerging from their own ideas? Yes, both boys were playing the shop before, and then they switched to numbers and exploring numbers and the biggest numbers. They also participated in inquiry-based experiences and persevere, when they were able to write more and more numbers. So this is really great help for you for any experience you set up with children, observe children, and you think about, I don't know what to write. Now let's look at another one. Children develop skills. Look at this column on the left and see if you can apply any of these dot points to your analysis. For example, do you think they used a variety of thinking strategies to solve problems that I posed for them? What is the biggest number? Do you think they were able to record and communicate mathematical ideas and concepts? Definitely. Yeah. Did they make predictions? What's going to happen if you add another 0 to 1? And generalizations. Yeah. So do you think this was used? Did they use mathematical language and symbols? You can write it down that both Lucas and Aaron used mathematical language and symbols when they talked about numbers. They also were able to manipulate objects and used maybe trial and error, or contribute constructively to mathematical discussions and arguments. Yeah. So you can see that these are your analysis expressions that you might struggle with. If you look at the next sub-outcome for children transfer and then adapt knowledge from one context to another. You also can see how they make connections between experiences, concepts, and processes. Maybe they already were reading a book about numbers, so you can clarify that. But when they are talking together, they engage with and co-construct learning with me, an educator, and between each other. Yeah. One of the boys was able to mirror the practices and actions of other boy. Yeah. Also, you can move to the next sub-outcome and also see if there is anything that you can apply here. Yeah, I can see that they were using some tools. Yeah, in this case, pens and pencils, or pens and post-it notes. They also were exploring ideas using imagination, creativity, and play. If we look at the next outcome, children are effective communicators, it's explicitly talking about numeracy and literacy. And this way, you can use the language from Eylf to add to your analysis. For example, when you share this observation with parents, you can basically copy some of these phrases to explain to them that writing numbers at this age is basically numeracy. Numeracy, as you can see, is a capacity, confidence, and disposition to use mathematics in daily life. Children bring new mathematical understanding through engaging with problem solving. It's essential that mathematical ideas with young children interact are relevant and meaningful in the context of their current lives. For example, when you will continue learning about big numbers with these children by measuring things they will be showing interest in, or weighting things on scale, or playing shop. So, but educator in this situation could have a rich mathematical vocabulary. For example, biggest number, Google, addition, I don't know, like two-digit numbers, etc. So you could accurately describe and explain children mathematical ideas to support numeracy development. So you can see you can use these phrases, numeracy development. This is what you see here. You also see understanding of patterns, numbers, yeah, and as they explore the world mathematically. So use these words, yeah, for your analysis here, because powerful mathematical ideas and children become numerate. So a lot of students, as I was saying, struggle. What do I say? I can see obviously that learning is happening, but the analysis sometimes is superficial. What is important as well, that positive attitudes in numeracy are essential for children's successful learning, and you can add it to your analysis as well, and then send this learning story to families. Looking at sub-outcomes here, children interact verbally and non-verbally, you will find a lot of relevant phrases. For example, use language to communicate thinking about quantities, to describe attributes of objects and collections, and to explain mathematical ideas, right? So you also can see that children are able to, let's look at the next one, express ideas using a range of media. For example, in my case, they used symbols of numbers, yeah. They used drawing to express their ideas about numbers, but they also used approximation of not letters but numbers. And actually it was an approximation. As you can see, these boys were absolutely capable of writing numbers, okay. Now let's look at this one. So this one is children begin to understand how symbols and systems work. Pattern systems in our case is all about numeracy and numbers. You can see they use symbols to make meaning, because 1 and 0 makes 10, and 1, 0, 0, 100, and they do understand that numbers, they do have meaning. Yeah, you also can see a lot of other interesting things here from this particular sub-outcome. Use this expression. So now, if you look at this learning story again, now if you will add this part that we call interpretation or analysis, yeah, you can now write down a lot of things that we discussed. For example, you can start with big ideas, so becoming. Yeah, so children are becoming more literate. Yeah, in a way, numeracy or numerate. Yeah. So that's number one, and you can explain it a little bit more. I also suggested that the theory constructivism suggests that children acquire knowledge by co-construction. Yeah. And this was evident when Aaron and Lucas interacted with each other and with the teacher and environment. Think about mathematics as an active process that can be learned through shared experience with peers, adults, through playing scaffolding. You can say that it was amazing to see the investigation and exploration of symbols, yeah, which is numbers in our case. What also you observed, the use of mathematical language, and understanding of ordinary numbers. You also can see that children have rich understanding of mathematics already, and you can see that they have very good curiosity about the world and big numbers. Now think about what would you do next. How would you approach this experience? What would be the experiences you will include? How would you further scaffold children's interest about numbers? So I did write that I'm going to add this and the big numbers in their shopping area, for example 100, 200, 300, and etc. I also will add clipboards everywhere so these children can write. But again, if you are struggling with what to do, look at this right column, and it does give you ideas of examples of teachers intentional teaching and examples of what teachers can do. They can provide them with wide range of everyday materials to sort. They might actually engage them in discussion about symbol systems, money. How great! This is giving you examples and ideas, and musical notation and time. You see, you also can encourage children to develop their own systems, yeah, and provide them with opportunities to explore culturally constructed symbol systems. If you remember, these boys are Chinese Australian, so we can ask parents to provide us more information about numerals in Mandarin or Cantonese, and that would be a good extension. So I hope this helped you to understand how to use Eylf as one of the most important documents for analysis of your observations and for writing more interesting and more professional observations. Subscribe if you are interested in my videos, and please post any comments or questions below.